Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title of today's video and a change in scenery, we're going to be having a bit of a discussion video. Now this isn't going to be a negative video, this isn't going to be a drama video, this isn't going to be anything like that. As you guys can tell from the title of today's video, I wanted to talk about my journey on Booktube and how I got started and how maybe you can get started. I feel like there are quite a few videos going up about this or have gone up about this since I've started Booktube or even before then. But I wanted to give maybe a little bit of a different version of that video because just getting into it, the way that my Booktube journey started, I was super anxious, super afraid. I have a lot of social anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety in general. So just starting Booktube wasn't really an option for me. And I hear that as a reason a lot from a lot of people, just to jump on, get in, just start and you'll be fine. And I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily work that way. I did not work that way. For me, I ended up eventually doing it like that, and I feel like I could have benefited from maybe taking it a bit slower, maybe really thinking about my anxieties, because when you get on the internet and when you start talking to people, it can be really like overwhelming. And I feel like that is when people are often like, oh, you should just get started, and knowing that eventually this becomes a community and knowing eventually that you make friends and you kind of need to keep up appearances, I think that it's kind of annoying to hear people just be like, oh, you just need to start. And nothing against them, because obviously maybe they don't have anxieties or maybe their audience is similar to them, because that's what tends to happen. But when it came to starting my channel, I actually was suffering really badly from OCD. A lot of you guys have heard this story before, but I was looking up videos on OCD and I actually found Book Roast's video on her mental health journey. And then I started watching her channel, and then I just fell in love with Booktube in general. I started seeing more and more suggestions in my sidebar. I actually didn't start watching any of the big booktubers. That's not where I started. I think I was fortunate enough to find a smaller booktuber at the time. And then I started connecting with their friends and their people that they were talking to. And that's where my journey started. And when it comes to me actually deciding to make videos, I was doing Bookstagram, which was something that I was really into because I loved photography. I actually bought a camera shortly before I started doing that to take pictures of daily life, just to have memories and stuff. I've always really been into photography. So I did actually buy a nice Canon camera at that time. And then I started Booktube or Bookstagram, and I had my nice camera. So I already had a camera going into Booktube, and I think I'm really fortunate for that. I feel like a lot of people say you don't need the best camera, you don't need the best lighting and stuff, and to an extent, I think that's true. I'll get into that a little bit more later. But at the time, I was just using my little camera. I was filming at night, so my lighting was really terrible. And I was totally okay with it. I was making videos, I was making connections with people, I was talking to people and really developing friendships and talking about books that I really wanted to talk with people about. And I started getting into new genres, and it was just a really wonderful experience. Now, 2 years into it, I do get a little bit overwhelmed, not by YouTube, but by like social media in general. For my journey, I think that social media can be important when it comes to this, but for me, it is really incredibly overwhelming, and I'll go over that a little bit later. But for me, I was doing Booktube for about 8 or 9 months. I had about 800 subscribers, and then Thoughts on Tomes did a video, and she actually, in the same video, talked about me and G, I believe. But my subscriber count tripled overnight because Thoughts on Tomes has, 10 times what I have. And I truly love her. She's actually one of the first booktubers that I also started watching. So she did this video, I just lost it. And I was so thankful, but also, and this isn't her fault, obviously, so overwhelmed by the amount of people that I had commenting on videos, the amount of people that I was reaching at the time. It is really overwhelming to go from none to suddenly, well, not none, but for anybody who starts from a really small number and it feels really manageable to a larger number that feels completely like overnight, just too much. And that's something that I think people need to be aware of when they go into Booktube, because a lot of people just talk about gaining subscribers and how making friends and how important that is, and we celebrate milestones and stuff, but people need to be aware of people who have anxieties if, say, a video goes viral or you get talked about by somebody, or your friends are boosting your videos and you start gaining subscribers really rapidly. It can be really scary. I gain about anywhere from 150 to 300 a month, and it is really scary to think about like the number just climbing. And for me, that was really hard. And that's something that I feel like people going in need to be aware of, that at one point in time, you are going to have more subscribers than maybe you're able to reach. You're going to have more subscribers than maybe comments that you're able to respond to. And that's okay. A lot of people do deal with that. Like a lot of booktubers recently have been talking about, it's impossible to watch every single video. It's impossible to comment on every single video. And sometimes it's impossible to even respond to the comments on yours. I've been taking about a half an hour every day to sit down and respond to comments on videos, or to at least the day I upload a video, try to respond to all the comments at that point in time on that specific video. My journey for Booktube has been a really great one. It has been a pretty rapid one. I think that having almost 5,000 subscribers in 2 years is kind of a big deal on Booktube. And I don't know what I did. I don't know if it's like the support of my friends. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know, but I'm incredibly thankful for whatever the reason is that I'm able to reach this audience and this many people. But just be aware that if you are starting, that it can be kind of overwhelming to respond to everybody, or to know that you have this many people watching you. My videos on average get, anywhere from like, let's say like really low, like 300s, which are like book reviews and stuff, to anywhere of like 1,100 views. And a couple of my videos have like 6,000 views. It's really scary to think about that many people have watched your videos, especially when it happens overnight. So if you have social anxiety or any kind of anxiety and you're going into this, just be aware that that can be really overwhelming at times. And I don't like that we're kind of ignoring that and just telling people to go for it. If you need to prepare yourself for starting Booktube, I think that that's incredibly healthy. And I don't think anybody should look down their nose at you for doing that. So another thing that really helped me, and I think that is really important when starting Booktube, is to make friends. I think the most organic way that you can make friends is commenting on stuff. So whether that be connecting with them through Instagram, connecting with them through Twitter, or even just commenting on YouTube videos. That is how I have made some of the most long-lasting friendships I've had on Booktube, were from comments, like subscribers, like Bunny, one of my very, very favorites, Angelica, one of my very, very favorites. These are just subscribers of mine that I've become friends with. And John. There's so many people that I can think of right now. Sorry if I'm forgetting you. It's just one of those days. But I feel like the most organic way to do it, like I said, is just to have dialogue with them. Don't go to their videos and be like, oh, I'm a new booktuber too, you should check me out. Like, talk about what they're talking about. Because I feel like even when people comment those kinds of things, it's because they admire the person whose video they're commenting on and they want them to follow them. They want to make friends, but they're kind of afraid. And I feel like if you have anxiety like I do, it was really hard to comment on videos and get that dialogue going. That is actually how G and I became friends. I just started commenting on her videos because I was watching what she was posting and I was interested in the videos that she was putting up. And I just wanted to tell her my thoughts, and she started responding, and then I started following her on Instagram, and her and I were talking on Instagram, and then she started following me, and now we're just she's one of my best friends. And it's just, that's the best way to do it. I get asked so often how to get involved in the community, and so often how to make friends on here, and that's how you do it. That is, I think, a cornerstone of the Booktube community is making friends and making sure that you are connecting with people, because even though you have subscribers and even though you have people commenting on your stuff, it can still get a little bit lonely from a creator standpoint. I cannot tell you how wonderful it was when G and I became friends and I could ask her questions about editing software, or I could talk to her about the woes of having to film everything in one day and edit everything and how annoying it was. And just having somebody that I knew understood that and got that and could relate in so many different ways, that was just heaven for me. So I think having creator friends is important, as well as really making friends with your subscribers. I think that those are both cornerstones of Booktube in general. But another thing that I wanted to address when it comes to making friends and getting seen on Booktube, there's been a lot of discussion recently about social media and the need for social media. And while I can see the point in it, I can see the point in why people feel like we need social media, why people feel like everybody should have a Twitter and everybody should be active on Twitter, or why everybody should have an Instagram and should be active there. Twitter and Instagram are nice because you can have separate followings, but also it is another way to be like, hey, I posted. So YouTube lets people know that you post. You can get on Twitter and share your video. There's more people that maybe weren't seeing it before. You can get on Instagram and post that you made a new video on there as well, and that's even more people seeing your videos. The bottom line is you want people to see your videos. However, as somebody who does not like social media, I do not like having to have Twitter to make friends. I do not, and keeping up with things. I do not like having to have Instagram to keep up with people that way too. I'm fortunate enough to be one of those people that I could go months without talking to somebody, still genuinely love and care about them. And when I reach out to them or they reach out to me, it's like there was no time that went past at all. But for people to say you need Twitter to make friends, you need Twitter to keep up with things, I don't think that that's true. I honestly don't. Do I think it helps? Yes. Do I think that it makes it easier to keep up with your friends are doing? Yes. Do I think that it's something that is more important than your mental health if you think that Twitter and Instagram and other social media is stressing you out? No. I think that if you are like me, where trying to keep up with stuff every single day is really exhausting, and to tell somebody you need Twitter or you need Instagram, I think it's frankly bullshit. I think that you don't need any of that. I think that if you can handle it and you want to have it, then by all means do it. I think that it is helpful, but I don't think that it's a necessity. I really honestly don't. When I first started doing Booktube, I wasn't on Twitter. And I was still getting seen, and I was still getting exposure, and I was still talking to my friends. And you know, you can email somebody, you can fucking text somebody if they're willing to share their phone number. You don't need to do social media, because people who tend to say like you should have Twitter and stuff aren't often stressed out by the shit that they see on social media. Every single time I open Twitter, I'm like, my God. And it's not even Booktube stuff, it's just life stuff. Like, my friends are really struggling, or the United States is just going down the fucking drain like it is, and I'm tired of seeing that kind of stuff. And so to tell somebody they need to have social media to be successful, I think that it's stupid. And it also takes away from a little bit of things being more personal. Because when somebody comments on a video and you respond to them and you start an organic conversation that way and you carry a friendship that way, and then eventually, you know, maybe you start sending each other letters or texts or, you know, whatever. To get online and just see, I actually had this happen to me recently. One of my very best friends lives in California, and she's going through a lot of life changes, and she, you know, lives, there were all the forest fires that were happening, and I was genuinely worried about her. But because I was seeing updates from her online about how she was doing and just seeing that she was still alive, I didn't feel the need to reach out to her to check in on her. And that is not the type of person I am. So when people say you need social media to keep up with your friends, I don't like that, because social media makes it too easy to be like, oh, well, they're okay, they're doing fine, they're still alive, but you haven't really asked them how they're doing. And no one gets on social media and is like, I hate everything, I'm doing so awful, I can't stand it, I'm really struggling. Like, not too many people do that. So you're seeing these little snippets of your friends' lives, but you're not really checking in on them, because social media is already telling you that they're okay when it's only a 4-second fucking message they put up, and they could be doing really awfully. So when you start making friends on Booktube, just try to remember that you don't need to have social media to keep up with them. If you want to keep up with them via email, if you want to keep up with them via Skype, like I Skype G all the time, like, you know, I Skype my friend Sam all the time. If that's how you want to keep up your friendships, then do it. I feel like social media is a really good way of having very shallow friendships with people. And if you're one of those people like me that needs more deep friendships, then maybe try a different way of connecting with them. And I'm not saying every social media friendship is a fake friendship or is shallow. I'm not saying that at all. But the larger your channel gets, the more, like, the harder it's going to be to maintain deep friendships with that many fucking people. My friendship circle is pretty small. It's probably about 10 people that I'm super, super close with. And even then I struggle to keep up with them. So if you're thinking about starting a Booktube channel and you're a little bit nervous about how to make friends, because I think that's 90% of the time why people start Booktube, just remember that you need to find the right way to maintain a friendship with people. If you're okay with doing Instagram, maybe Instagram messages. If you prefer Twitter DMs, do Twitter, but don't feel like you need to have any of those. There are plenty of people, and I can tell you from having done it a completely different way, there are plenty of ways to keep up with people and to make friendships that don't necessarily need to be on social media. And we as a community need to stop trying to force people to be on Twitter 24/7 and keeping them out of the loop, but like only making things available on Twitter and only making things available on Instagram. I feel like that's really actually kind of awful, because not everybody has the mental capacity to do all of that all the time, me included. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is something that I often get asked, and it's where I come up with ideas. Now, I've kind of addressed this before. I am not a super creative booktuber. I'm not a super creative person in general. I'm definitely more of an analytical thinker. I would prefer to do short reviews on books, even though I kind of struggle with that. I would prefer to just talk about my thoughts on books and just talk to you guys about what I thought of it, what you guys thought of it. That's the kind of channel that I like. There are some incredibly creative booktubers on this platform. So when you go into starting a channel, I think it's important to kind of decide what you want to do, how you want to do it. Because, for example, when I first started my booktube, I started noticing that the channels who I watched the most were pretty negative reviewers. And I think it's because everybody likes that little bit of drama. Everybody likes somebody kind of tearing down something that a bunch of other people like. But I started noticing that that started bleeding over into my videos. I don't like being a negative reviewer. I mean, I like to be honest and I like to talk about the books that I don't like, but I like to do it in a more respectful way. Because I think that there's a way to talk about a book and talk about what you didn't like in a way that doesn't hurt people's feelings. Because honestly, people are like, well, I would want to know that somebody doesn't like my book and blah, blah, blah. And you say that until you see a horrible video about how much your book fucking sucked and how they can't believe that it got published. I have seen reviews like that and I think that is awful. So everybody wants to say that they want to know if people like their book or not, but no, you wouldn't. I don't care who you are. I don't care. Like, even me as one of the most I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks kind of people, that would still hurt my feelings. So when I first started BookTube, I was watching all those videos and I started seeing that I started doing that. Not like specific reviews about books that I hated, but I started seeing more negativity in my videos. So when you start making a channel, you really got to decide what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to be super creative? Do you want to do more vlogs? Do you want to do more negative reviews? Do you want to be one of those kind of like discussion channels? You got to kind of decide. And not to put too much pressure on it, because I feel like it's okay to grow and change, especially in the earlier times of your channel. But you got to decide pretty much at the core of it, what kind of person are you going to be? Are you going to be positive and uplifting? Are you going to be one of those brutally honest people? I think that there is space for everybody here. I think it's just, you need to go in and be a little bit clear and honest to yourself about what kind of content you want to make. Because for me, when I was making those negative reviews, I was, at the time, I think really into it, but looking back on it, it made me so negative and I can't watch those old videos. Some of them are private now, I just can't watch them. And I'm just not that type of person. I see that they get a lot of views and stuff, but at one point in time, like halfway through, probably about 6 months ago, I decided I wanted to focus more on being positive. And it has made me so much happier and it has made me so much more mentally healthy. And I think that a lot of people don't talk about that you need to kind of decide your vibe when you go into BookTube. Not necessarily the content you're going to make, but more the type of person you want to be, because you will attract people. The people that I was fortunate enough to attract into my life are really good, kind, sassy, you know, kind of people, really honest people, but they have such a caring heart. And I think that when you go into it, if you are a negative person, you're going to unfortunately attract negative people. Now, I think, like I said, that there is a market for all of that. I think that it's important to have negative reviews, but if you're gonna be one of those nasty people on YouTube, just be aware that you're going to unfortunately attract probably pretty nasty people into your life as well. But like I said, when it comes to being creative, I am not that creative, and people often ask me how I'm able to come up with my video ideas. Now, my video ideas, like I said, are not creative. I just like to talk about what I like to talk about. If I find something that I am passionate about, a type of book, a book itself, a genre of book, whatever it may be, I like to talk about it. I like to do vlogs a lot. I think vlogs are a really nice way to be able to talk about a bunch of things at once without needing to really sit down and just, you can think of things on the fly. You can kind of talk about what you're experiencing, what you're reading, and you don't really need to stress yourself out about it. That is why I truly love vlogs. I can see why people don't really like doing them, but I'm a fan of them. But for me, when it comes to like planning, Sunday night, I'll sit down and go, okay, because usually I film on Tuesdays. I'll sit down after work, I'm all clean and showered and, you know, whatever, and I'm relaxing in my office, and I will sit down and really think of things that I want to cover. So it can be a hot topic that's been going around BookTube if I feel like I want to speak on it, or it can be a type of video that I want to talk about, but if I don't have something to post about, I've learned not to force myself to post about it. If I don't feel strongly about something or passionately about something and I want to talk about it, I don't. If it's a book that I want to gush to the world about, I will. Like my Wolf and the Whale review, I'll leave it up here for you guys. I don't often do book reviews, but I loved that book so fucking much that I needed to talk about it. So I feel like a lot of my inspiration is just drawn from watching other people's booktubes as well. Not in the sense of getting ideas from them, but I think watching booktube videos and watching your friends make videos, it makes you inspired to create content. And I think that that does help the wheels get turning. It's like people who don't read but want to be authors. I feel like that's kind of impossible to do. I feel like if you want to be a booktuber, you need to be watching booktube. You need to see what is going on in the community. You need to see what's, you know, things that people want to watch. You know, there's tags and things that people do. I think that it's really great that we are a community that still does tags. I think that it makes us a community. And for me, I just try to be as involved as possible with videos. Now, I don't often comment on videos. I am more of a lurker, but just know that I do watch. I try to watch. I have literally in the last like week watched 60 hours of video. So yeah, I'm watching a lot. If I don't comment, I'm sorry, but I'm definitely watching. And it's because I want to know what's happening. I want to know how you guys are doing. I want to know what my friends are up to. I want to know what's popular, what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a really fucking old lady who's like watching the youngins to see what's hip. But that is how I keep up with what I want to post and what's important to me. And I follow so many different and diverse booktubers that the content that I make is just what I want to make, because I watch so many different ones and I see people doing so many different things that I'm like, why force myself into a bubble? And I think that's another thing that's really important to remember when it comes to booktube. Yes, you're talking about books. Yes, that is the main focus of things, but that doesn't mean you need to restrict yourself to only doing that. I get so many requests to do videos on my favorite video games. And my God, you guys, if I could sit down and play video games with you guys, if I could sit down and talk about them, I would love that. But for me, like, I feel like I kind of put myself in this box and I can't do it. And I really do want to talk about other stuff. And that's why I started talking about comics and manga. While still books, it is a bit different. I talk about video games in my vlogs, and I talk about, you know, the anime that I watch in my vlogs. And I don't want people coming on here to think that they are limited to only talking about books, because frankly, we're pretty saturated with book content. You know what I mean? Like, there are a million people that are talking about books right now on their channels, and you don't need to oversaturate it even more if you don't want to. So if you want to talk about other stuff as well as books, do it. Because what tends to happen is there are so many people that are similar to me in the sense of, I think I'm special, but I know there are other booktubers who talk about the same things. I know of a couple who primarily focus on Stephen King, or, you know, add Stephen King a lot to their channel, or like who talk about anime and talk about comics. Nothing I'm doing is particularly crazy and creative. People watch your channels because they like your personality. So if you want to talk about something else besides books, do it, because people are here for you. If you want to talk about how you mow your grass, if you want to talk about your favorite stamps, if you want to talk about your, you know, cat fur collection, like whatever it may be, do it, because people are here for you. If you have a following and you have subscribers, I can guarantee it's not just because of the books that you talk about, or that you talk about books in general, because there are so many booktubers, you guys. Like, when I joined with like 40 different people. Half of them don't make videos anymore because it's so oversaturated that sometimes it's hard to get seen. But make what you want to make. Make what makes you happy, because you're going to attract people into your life that you are going to connect with, it's going to matter more than having a booktube channel later on. You're going to have made friends. You're going to have made connections. If I stopped doing booktube tomorrow, I would still have so many wonderful friends that I met from this community. Don't worry, I'm not thinking about stopping booktube, but I think that's important, that people jam themselves into these boxes, but you don't need to do that. Like, there's so much room for everybody here and for every interest. You don't need to limit it to primarily books if that's not all you want to talk about. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the very obligatory shit that I film with. So I film with a Rebel T6i. I told myself that I wasn't going to buy any kind of equipment for filming unless I did this for at least a year. So about 6 months ago, I bought the T6i. It was one of the best investments I've ever made. It is a fantastic camera. I have purchased a couple of lenses. Right now I'm using the EF5 24mm lens. It was one of the best investments I've ever made. I think lenses are very important. I have an this is my more wide angle lens, but it also gives background blur, which I really like. I have another lens that has to be incredibly far away, but has great like visuals, but it's really hard to film with. But it does, if I'm taking really close up photos of something or wanting to film something really close up, that's the lens that I use. And then I have one it's for people who are like a mile and a half away when you're trying to take pictures of them. I have a bunch of different lenses, but this is the one that I use. I guess it's a 52mm, but it says Canon lens EFS 24mm 128 STM. I don't know, but that is the lens that I use primarily to film. Now, when it comes to lighting, I prefer to use natural light. I do have a window. Currently, it's right here. Normally, it sits in front of me, and then I will put a box light in front of that. I have two really big box lights. One is currently right in front of me. One is right there lighting my desk up, so my desk isn't super dark. What I usually do is have one behind my camera in front of a window, and then my other box light will sit to the right of me, and it kind of backlights my bookshelves. And I do prefer natural light. I think natural lighting looks the best, and that's just my personal opinion. That's just from doing photography for so many years. But there is a necessity sometimes for lighting because I film constantly. I film 1 day a week. So sometimes it is snowing. Like today it's snowing. It is raining. It is, you know, dark because the day got away with me or because the weather's really shitty. So I think that lighting is important when it comes to videos. I don't think it's a necessity. I think that there are people who have horrible lighting that I watch that have amazing personalities that make up for it. So don't feel like you need to go out and buy all this shit. When it comes to sound, I use a Rode microphone. It is this little mic right here. It is a little pin that I plug into my phone, so it actually records all the audio to my phone. It is kind of annoying because later I have to sync it. You can get mounted microphones that you can plug into your camera, but I did not do that. I didn't like the quality of it, so I ended up just figuring out how to sync it. What I'll usually do is when I first start a clip, I will clap so that I can sync the clap from my audio on my camera to the audio on my Rode. This was $100, I think. It was quite an investment for me for a microphone, but I actually truly love it because I can bring it around with me. My camera itself was $900, so that was the biggest investment I think that I've ever paid. And my lights were $150, I think, for both. Now, like I said, I didn't want to invest money in all of this unless I really needed to. When it comes to the stand that you guys are on, my tripod was a $20 tripod that I got from Amazon. And when it comes to taking videos, I actually use this Amazon Basic remote, which is essentially you can set a remote timer, like a remote thing on your phone that when you press this, it waits 10 seconds or 2 seconds sometimes and takes a photo. So that's what I use to take my thumbnails. Sometimes I forget to take my thumbnails though. That is important. That is all the stuff that I use to film. It is very basic. It is very, I mean, I think it's very basic because I know people who have ridiculous stuff. I would say the other most expensive thing that I have purchased for doing this, which I don't think you need, is I have Final Cut Pro on my computer. And the only reason I have it is, as you guys can tell, I bought a Mac. I bought a Mac. I wanted a Mac. I love Mac. I do have like a normal computer that has Premiere Pro on it. And then I also, with Final Cut, when I bought my computer was pretty expensive. I think it was like $1,800 or $1,900, but I'd been saving for it for a while. And they gave you the option to add Final Cut Pro for I think $300. Now, when I edit like photos and stuff, I use Adobe and I pay $10 a month for that. I use Photoshop for that. But when it comes to just filming and editing, I use Premiere Pro because instead of paying monthly for that, I just bought it flat out for $300. So, but that is all the stuff that I use to film, edit, upload, like all of that. If you guys have any questions about like this kind of stuff, let me know. I'm not gonna link it because I don't know, I told you how much it costs. Like if you really wanna know where something specifically from, let me know and I will find a link for you guys. But I have slowly accumulated these things and slowly decided that they were worth having in my collection, and that is why I ended up having them. But I don't want anybody to feel like they absolutely 100% have to have these things, because you don't. You could film on your phone. You can edit with your fucking software on your phone. It's super easy. You just gotta maybe look up YouTube videos on how to do it. If you want an aesthetic and you want, like that's the thing, like people think, oh, because this person's videos look like this, mine need to look like that. And that's not true. If you decide that you want yours to look like that, then that's different. But if you think that, oh, I won't be successful until it looks like this, that's unhealthy. That's saying that they're better than you, and they're not. So I think it's important for people to remember that you got to do what you want to do. That's all the internet is just people doing what they want to do, and not to shove yourself in boxes and not to feel like you're less of a creator because you don't have what somebody else has. That's not what it is. And I don't know, I've just been really stressed out thinking about how some of my friends are afraid to start because they don't have the best equipment, because they don't have the best, you know, they don't have a whole lot of books, they don't have this and that. And it's not what it's about. It's just about you getting on here, talking to people and making friends, and being aware that it can be kind of hard sometimes, and it can be really stressful, and to be aware of how it may trigger anxiety, and it, you know, it can be hard, but I do think it's worth it, especially as somebody who does struggle with that. I think that getting past that initially made my friendships that I've made worth so much more, because I know that I really had to work for them. And I know that my friends that I'm friends with that have anxiety really had to work for it too. So I think that's important to remember, but I'm gonna get off here because I think this video is gonna be like 30 minutes long. So I hope you guys like this. I do like sitting down and talking to you guys. Sometimes it's kind of hard to put all my thoughts into one, and I see such intelligible, wonderfully done discussion videos, and I'm not one of those people, but I do like to just sit down and talk to you guys as though I was talking to a friend. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love you very dearly, and I will see you in my next video.